I love that you said that people's heads have been exploding, because sort of the big news that had at least, people who are, political watchers exploding this weekend is that New York Times report that former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg is considering a White House run. And why I think it's interesting the way we've been discussing this, Steve, is because I think he's sort of sensing what you're talking about, which is you've got this race between these two guys, Donald Trump and Senator Cruz, and he actually sees an opening.
I think he sees more of an opening if Hillary Clinton somehow doesn't get the nomination. If you look at how Michael Bloomberg governed in New York City as mayor, I don't think anybody's going to confuse him for being a conservative. I think Republicans seemed pretty joyous about the idea that Bloomberg is considering running, thinking that he would take any votes away from a Democratic candidate and not necessarily a Republican candidate. They've got a lot of stuff they can point to, Republicans do, that show, even though he's an independent, and even though at one point he was elected as a Republican, he's not a conservative in any way whatsoever. And so, the way we understand and our reporting shows is that Bloomberg is looking at Hillary Clinton here. And if Hillary Clinton, who is a more moderate Democrat than Bernie Sanders, if she winds up coasting to the nomination, he feels that there's probably no room for him as a third-party candidate to run in the general election. However, if somebody like Bernie Sanders, who will be at least considered he's called himself a socialist. He's going to be tarred by the Republicans as a left-wing, unelectable Democrat. Then I think that that Bloomberg takes this seriously and tries to walk in here in the general election and try to pull a more moderate type of Democrat away from Bernie Sanders.
Could he, because he would be running as independent, could he pull away any moderate Republicans to that independent category? So, you're talking about, I think the way I'm looking at it, and I'm not as savvy as you are on the politics side, but I'm looking at Bernie Sanders, for a lot of people represents the sort of the left wing, the extreme left wing of the Democratic Party. And you got a guy like Senator Cruz or Donald Trump who represents the extreme right wing of the party. And then you've got Bloomberg, who has, perhaps he can bring some of that sensibility, the self-made man concept to the race, which Donald Trump is talking about. He's a great business guy. And he is known to be at least fiscally conservative.
Right. So the question is Republicans, are they voting for fiscal conservatives, or are they voting for people on social issues such as guns and abortion and those types of things? If it's the latter, then I don't see where he brings a lot of Republican support to his candidacy. Now, if it's really all about the economy and people want somebody who can get the country's fiscal house in order, and that's really all they're voting on, then maybe he does peel a few people away. But again, there's a lot of Oppo research on Michael Bloomberg and the way he ran New York. And toward the end, you hear conservatives talking about the nanny state and the soda tax and all that kind of stuff. Those are kinds of things that even I think moderate Republicans would maybe pause at supporting a guy who is going to basically bring more government control over day-to-day life of people. That's a big thing for Republicans, and he's got a big hurdle there if that's what he's trying to do in terms of pulling Republican voters.
Steve Chaggaris in Washington, always great insight. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks.